Hello, Mark Holt from the Nostalgia Dirt series. The video you're about to see is very important to me. This is the first interview that I've ever done for the Dirt series, and it is about a very special family called the Gustafson family. Many years ago, Ron Gustafson held a vintage event, an open vintage event, at the Hamilton County Speedway in Webster City, Iowa. And I attended those events and raced my vintage car, and they left such an impression on me. This was the inspiration for my traveling series, open event, the Nostalgia Dirt series. Today, I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Doug Gustafson, Ron's son, for what I hope to be an amazing interview. I'm sure it will be. I want to say, if you like what I'm doing here with the Nostalgia Dirt series, please hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. I'm very passionate about nostalgia racing. I'm very passionate about my interviews and meeting new people, and I just welcome you to the Nostalgia Dirt series. Thank you. Hello and welcome to my first ever interview with the most amazing man, and talking about another most amazing man and a most amazing family, the Gustafson family. We'll be talking today about Ron Gustafson, and this is my new friend Doug, and we're going to be talking today about the vintage race car reunion that at Hamilton Speedway that inspired me to start the Nostalgia Dirt series, going to be the traveling open event. My name is Mark Holt, and this is the Nostalgia Dirt series.
Mom bugged his mom forever. She wouldn't sell it. And I remember going to Arlington, Minnesota to a vintage race, and we slept in our station wagon, me and Dad. And from then on, we were hooked with the vintage races.
Right.
And we brought that car home.
Sure.
She finally convinced us. We got that car, we brought it home, and I think that was '89. And that started the whole vintage car thing with us, and restoring cars. And that's what brought Rolly into the picture, because my Uncle Rolly used to restore antique cars.
Sure.
And then we started doing race cars.
Right.
And one midget blossomed into several cars.
You can never have enough race cars.
They had a lot of them.
That's awesome. So that's kind of where he got the bug and the idea for the vintage race car reunion stuff.
Yeah, and the reunion, it was actually put on by a friend of his, and he would kind of help him a little bit.
Sure.
And then we were a member of the IMCA Old Timers.
Okay.
And he was on the board of the IMCA Old Timers.
Sure.
And he would just kind of help out when he wasn't racing. He would help out there, do whatever. And I'd always remember we'd have to get radios for the races. We'd have to go get the radios and stuff. And I think it was, oh gosh, I don't know, probably 92 maybe. We started. Oh no, it was before that. Oh heck, I don't even remember it.
Time flies, don't it?
Yeah. It had to have been 91, 92. Probably, I can't even remember.
Sure.
When we started going to the races. And I remember it was Jerry Dixon would put on the vintage races.
Okay.
At Webster City, and him and Dad were pretty good friends. And he would help Jerry, and then Al Herhammer, and we would help Al. And then Jerry had gotten sick.
Oh, okay.
And Jerry ended up passing away, and my dad just kind of took over it.
Right.
And kind of took off with it. And we kind of just took everything over.
Sure.
The pit shack and everything. And when Al was the promoter, Al would let us we did everything. I mean, we watered the track. We did everything but grading.
Sure.
Al would do the grading, we did all the watering, we did everything at the track. You know, it just was...
Well, I remember like I said, this is how I got my inspiration is going to your open event and stuff. And I just remember what a top notch operation it was, and every year I just get really excited about meeting all these different people. I mean, you guys had the wire wheeled cars. You guys had full-bodied stock cars. You guys had coupes, and it's just amazing.
We tried to have everything. I mean, my dad would hire me out as a driver for hire. I raced everything from a QT to his friend's stock car to his friend's super modified. I mean, I just would, and then I drive our own.
Right.
And I always drove them with the intention that they're not mine, and I'm not going to wreck them, and I'm not going to get rough with them.
Right.
It's not like my hobby stock.
Right.
I'm not going to bang it off somebody.
Yeah.
It
was so neat that all these people would come from. I don't even know where all these people were from, but and how you guys would class the cars, to run together and stuff, and just how smooth. I mean, how did you guys pattern this stuff? I mean, how smooth the whole weekend went with classifying the cars and how to show up.
A lot of it come through the IMCA old timers.
Okay.
Is how they would classify it. The V8s, the 6-cylinders. Tater.
He wants to be interviewed too.
I guess so. It's the grandkids' cat. They would have the V8s, the 6-cylinders, and they would kind of figure out, what. And people would ask, do you want to run with them like the Chevy 2s, the Offenhausers? They'd ask everybody. You want to run with them, and you kind of once you get to know somebody, you know how they're going to run.
Exactly.
The guys that used to race, they're still going to race.
Right.
They're still. I mean, they're still going to be running hard.
Yeah.
And there's going to be guys out there that aren't going to push their stuff.
Sure.
And they're like, I'll run with the 6-cylinders even though I got a V8.
Yeah.
And then, so you kind of knew after a while who was going to be who and who's going to run. So that's kind of we would ask, and that's how we kind of class them. And you kind of knew the jalopies from the wire wheels.
Right.
And everybody kind of knew which class kind of went together.
Sure.
Just after a while, we just kind of figured it out, and you didn't know everybody's name, but you knew the car.
Right. And it was kind of, I'm finding today with starting up the Nostalgia Dirt series, there's people that want to, rip it up and go as fast as they can go, and then there's other people that just want to do the exhibition or just get on the track and just show their cars.
That's what
stuff.
We started doing was exhibition.
Right.
And it was where everybody ran a lap and everybody led a lap. Everybody led a lap.
Sure.
And nobody ever really won.
Right.
And that's what we always were taught.
Sure.
And then we had a 1938 midget, and we had the sister car to it, the 37 midget, which was owned by Dewey Grodehouse, which is a friend of ours. And we would run, and me and my uncle, we would run, and we would be close enough that we could probably reach out and touch each other, but we would stay together.
Right.
We didn't care where everybody else was, as long as the two of us stayed, and we looked like we were racing.
Right.
And we could look over, and you could see the biggest grin on his face. Or, the same thing with my dad. If I was racing my dad,
Mm-hmm. And you got to race with your dad. And stuff?
I would race with my dad. I'll never forget Father's Day. I raced my dad Father's Day over at Eldora, and I was in front of him, and I was driving one of our cars, and he was driving the other one, and he beat me. And he says, oh, and he legitimately beat me, and he to this day thinks I let him win because it was Father's Day. He thought that to the day he died that I let him win.
Right.
He didn't. He legitimately beat me. He got around me, and I couldn't get back around him.
Yeah. That's amazing that you got to be able to do that. I hope that I get to race with my father someday. I've got a lot of stuff on my bucket list, and that's one of them. I've been able to cross a few things off, but that's one of them. A bit to be able to race with my dad, and my brother and I, my family, have built some replicas of cars that my dad ran. So my uncle just passed away not that long ago, but I never got to race with him. But I hope I get to race with my dad.
I feel pretty privileged to race. My uncle never really raced until we got vintage cars.
Sure.
So he never had any fear. My dad had a little more cautious.
Right.
Because my dad understood. My dad kind of understood what was going on.
Right.
You know, so he's a little more cautious. Kind of like me, I was a little more cautious. But my uncle, he was out there. And if you knew he was going to go for it, he was going for it.
Right,
you know?
right. It's kind of funny you should say that. The same dynamic in my family. My dad was a little more cautious. My dad had a couple bad wrecks in his stock car. He rolled and got some injuries and stuff. But my uncle had always been the wide open guy. And in fact, you know, we built these replicas, and one replica is true vintage. It's got the stock rear, 55 Chevy, stock rear end, 4-door, doors chain shut, the well pipe, the whole shebang, you know, just like they did it. The other one is kind of like a reloaded version of their 57 Chevy, and it's got a 377 motor, 180 degree headers, super late model wheels. You know, it's all painted up the same, but much faster.
Yeah.
And we were so excited. We unveiled the original one, and my uncle was just like, "Yeah, that's nice." But I don't want to drive that one. I want to drive the other one. It was kind of a wah moment, but yeah, that's kind of the same dynamic in our family too. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about the race reunion that you guys put on in Webster City. It always amazed me how kind your dad was, and knowledgeable and confident, and just how you guys. How the whole thing ran, you know, how smooth it was, and that kind of stuff. And my family always we're excited about every year. I get I think it was a yellow card. I get my yellow card in the mail.
Yellow card.
Yeah, for the race reunion, and I'd be so excited about that. And your dad was always so kind and so professional. And didn't you say? What role did you used to have during the reunions?
I would run the push trucks, and I was in charge of that pretty much. We had 4-wheelers. Usually my uncle had one, and I had one, and then I had 1 or 2 trucks. It depended upon how many we needed.
Right.
And we'd push. I'd do that part of it.
Sure.
My sister would run a 4-wheeler, and my brother-in-law, or I'd get a buddy to run a 4-wheeler, or somebody to run one, and then my wife would run the food shack, and my mom would run the concession or the pit shack. And,
sure.
You know, and
kind of a cool family event. I bet there's a lot of good memories.
I'd have my nephew'd ride with in the pickup, or you know, and my nieces would be playing in the pit shack. Yep.
Awesome. No, I just thought that was amazing. In fact, I wanted to show you. I got some of my dash plaques from the event that I've kept all these years, different ones. I don't have them all, but just kind of some different dash plaques and stuff that was always an honor to get, that I kept with pride. And the other thing I wanted to do is I don't know if you know much, but I'm reinventing myself, and I got this dream. You know, you're the Gustafson family, you and your dad and your sister and your mom. Your family inspired me. So I'm gonna do this as a career, and it's called the Nostalgia Dirt Series, and we're gonna be an open event like you guys had. Welcome to any and all. If it's vintage, it's welcome, you know.
Yeah.
We're gonna class them just like you guys did when they show up, size of their motor and whoever they're comfortable running with and that kind of stuff. But so I got my first merchandise was for my series, and I was so excited. But I wanted to have you be the first one to have one of our stickers for the Nostalgia Dirt Series. And so
I remember that car.
Yeah.
I probably have pictures of it too.
Yeah, that was one of the. So that the story behind that is that's the one of the very first cars that we built for. We had our club called the North Iowa Vintage Racing Club. That's the club that me and my brother, my friend Tim.
My mother reminded me the other day that was the name of your club.
Yeah. Tim Anderson, Jim Anderson, Mike Anderson, a bunch of different people. We got together and we decided we were tired with the competition stuff and getting ran over and how cutthroat it was getting, and we just put the fun back in racing again. So I don't know, I think that club's been going for 15 years maybe, and we just had another meeting and we're doing some different improvements on that as well. But yeah, so that was one of the very first cars that we built for our vintage club, and that's kind of why it's special to me.
It's awesome.
But I wanted I want you to know that you're my very first interview, because your family is very special to my heart. And when I've been networking with different racers and different clubs and stuff, and I was talking about your dad, and this one gentleman said, "Oh, I knew him," and I said, "Yeah, gosh, I wished I could have talked to him. I'd love to talk to him." Well, I know his son, and I have his number, and I'm like, that just made my day. I'm like, really? So I was hoping when I called you that you wouldn't say, "Oh, I don't want nothing to do with any of that stuff."
No.
But
that was my life.
But I was on cloud 9 when you answered the phone. I was
life.
talking to you, so it's really special that.
I thought you were a telemarketer. That's why I didn't say anything the first few seconds.
Who is this guy?
I picked the phone up and then I listened.
Yeah. So
I will put this in my shed on the wall. I'll probably frame it so I don't ever actually use it.
Awesome. Well, if you want one to stick on something too, you guys can have as many as you want.
Because I'll put this with the rest of my racing pictures out there.
It's awesome.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Are those pictures?
This is actually pictures of the cars we've done.
Cool. I'd like to maybe see some of those.
Here. Where's that? I lost it. Where did that go? Here. Oh, just to show you what I started out with. They'll remember this. Here is my very first push truck.
Sweet.
That was a van that had 300,000 miles on it. We pulled a race car with it and everything.
Right.
Didn't have no back seats in it, and I had to sit back there. If I didn't ride in the front, I'd ride in the back.
Yeah.
I had to sit on a milk crate.
Right.
But that was my very first push truck.
That's neat.
And then these are for you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's what gets my blood going.
Those were Dad and my uncle used to hand them out to all the kids.
Wow.
And if you turn them over, they got their names and about the cars on them. I think.
That is so cool. Seeing the picture of the midget, I would like to maybe get your feedback. Some things I'm finding. So I'm going to be interviewing a gentleman named, he said he knew you, Skip Hallett.
Oh,
Skippy. And so the first time I called him, I got his number from, it escapes me now, but I got his phone number and I called Skip, and we got to talking, and he seemed like kind of a gruff man, and really didn't have a lot to say and stuff, and I told him about my vintage car, and the first words out of his mouth was, "Well, that ain't vintage. That's not a vintage car." So I'll tell you what, and I'm so thankful that I talked to him too, because he is helping me, and I'm going to be doing a series on this too. He's helping me bridge the gap, because he's right. To me, that is kind of vintage, but what's slipping away there, throughout the years are the cars like these and stuff, and it's really important. That's what I'm going to be doing some of my YouTube stuff on is getting back to finding these cars in the true vintage, and not the true vintage, but what really raced back in that era, and it really opened my eyes to how that is going away, and so that's one thing I'm excited about with the Nostalgia Dirt Series is I want to hunt for that stuff and have that show up at my event.
Yeah.
So the people, I'm 53 years old, but Skip calls me a youngster, you know.
Skip must be 71.
What birthday party did we go to?
His 70th.
The 70th.
Yeah.
That was a couple years back.
Yeah. But he really opened my eyes, and now I have a great passion for giving people knowledge of the whole gamut of this vintage stuff. You know what I mean? Not just the so my era of vintage is you take a modern stock car chassis with the weight jacks and the quick steer and all that stuff, and you throw a '57 Chevy body on it, and for a while to me that was my vintage, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there's youngsters out there today that probably never even seen a 1938 midget.
No,
you know?
no.
They're in garages and they're you know, I want to be able people, the families, to get them out and show them off and tell the stories. So I'm kind of on a hunt for history.
Skip is a very amazing man.
He is an amazing man, and he spoke very highly of you.
I would speak the same of him. He is a very good friend. So,
great knowledge. Did you have any other pictures that you wanted to show off?
Yeah, I've got, here's the two midgets. It's not a very good picture of them. I wonder if I got a better picture of them. But I wanted to show what we started. I wonder if I can find a picture of what it looked like when we started. Oh, here it is. This is what it looked like when we brought home the midget. That's what it looked like when we brought it home.
That is so awesome.
And then, I mean, we actually built, my uncle and dad built an English wheel.
Okay.
And they did all the body work. They completely restored it.
Sure.
And here, this is the sister car. This is the number 9 car.
Wow.
And then this is the first car. This is the 29 car. This is the very first car. This is the other sister car.
Sure.
The guy made 3 cars. And I mean, when they got done, it turned into that. I don't actually have a good picture of it. Well, I do in here. But it's right there. That's what it turned into when they got done with it.
Wow, that is so cool. What an amazing piece of history.
That actually was in the Sprint Car Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And then,
how amazing is that?
here's the 45 car that we did. This is what it looked like when we brought it home. You can.
There's some pictures if you want to share them.
Oh, yes.
That was Father's Day. That was the day he beat me.
So check that out. Tell me how cool that is. So that was Father's Day.
That was Father's
That's the
Day.
day he took your win away from
He
you.
beat me. That was the day he beat me. And there's what the 45 car looked like when we raced it.
And here's another picture. One of my heroes. How awesome is that? That is amazing.
Here's this was always my favorite car. We ended up with, well, let's see here. What do I got here? Here's the 104 car. This is the car that I have now. This is the one that I have left. That I have left.
That is crazy fast.
Yes. It has got a 440 Chrysler in it.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. This is the 38 car. This is Norm Weimer's from Manson. This was his car that we had gotten, and we have completely. I mean, this was just every weekend we spent over it. We took one half of my uncle's farm shop and converted it to a race shop.
Oh, wow.
And
I would imagine those are probably some of the best times that you can remember.
yeah, it was. Yes, it
hanging
was
out.
very fun. Very fun. And then I raced weekly, so I would go and sneak in there in between.
Right, right.
And then that's what it.
Wow.
That's what it ended up to be, and that's also at the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Sprint Car Hall of Fame. But it's been. There's a picture of it originally when it raced.
Oh wow. What
We narrowed the body up and made it look a little sleeker.
Right, right.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here is Dad's. There's Dad's 55. And then here is his very first race car. Circle 4. That was his very first race car that they had.
So that number is kind of special to my family, in the fact that Star 4 was my grandfather's number.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know any Art Heinold. He raced around the Mason City area. He was a crew chief for Ted Zeman, but they had a midget, and it was Star 4. Okay. And we're going to be doing a story on that as well. But my dad, so that number got put on different cars, and my dad and my grandfather wound up purchasing one of the Star 4 cars. So that number is kind of special to us.
Now, if my uncle was around, we could go and, like, all these cars here, these are all hanging in his.
Is that right?
These are all hanging in his
Sure.
his Quonset or his building.
Right, right.
They were hanging in the machine shed, and he kind of migrated them to his building, and that's where they're hanging.
Sure, sure.
You know, but they're all just. We've got so many.
Wow.
Just cars and parts, and we also had my dad had they had bought a Trossel, and we had it forever, and it was actually not tag number 101. It was like the very first numbered Trossel that they numbered, and this is what it looked like when we had it, and it's actually been restored by Dad donated it to the Algona Museum.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And they restored it.
Okay.
And they just got it done here last year. And it is it's bright red, and it is just beautiful.
Yes, I saw that car.
It's just beautiful, but that is this car.
Okay.
And they had intentions, but we had so many cars and so many things. And
you could have had a museum all of your own.
Yeah. It's just, everything is just, it took so much, we had so much different stuff.
Right.
You know.
So do you have any more memories or anything you want to share about your
back when I was young and deciding if I wanted to race or not, you know, and so I built a car with one of my best friends. And actually, he was going to drive it. I think he was going to drive it mostly. We were going to kind of split it.
Sure.
Well, his wife didn't really want him to drive it. So I thought, well, then I'll drive it. Well, then I was married at the time. Well, my wife didn't want me to drive it.
Sure.
Well, my dad sat me down, and he says to me, if you don't do it now, you'll never do it, and you'll always wonder what it's going to be like.
Right.
And I kind of took that to heart. And the day I was getting ready to go to my very first race, my ex-wife was moving out.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So I went racing.
There you go.
And didn't really look back.
Sure.
We had a lot of fun.
I don't know about you, but racing has always been my go-to when life gets tough. And just the feeling you get behind the wheel and the camaraderie, you know, with my brother and my family. I don't know about, you know, sounds like you got to race with your dad. So talk a little bit about, you know, what that race and stuff means to you.
Oh, I'll never forget my first hobby stock race. I was so scared. And of course, you know, you draw for position.
Right.
And I drew pole position. And my dad says, "You're not moving." He says, "You're staying there."
Right, right.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And I had Andy Lunker beside me and Marty Pringle behind me.
Oh no.
And Andy says, "Stay with me, Flash." And Marty says, "I'll keep you up there. You ain't going fast enough, I'll push you up there. I'll push you up there. Don't worry about it. I'll push you up there."
How reassuring was that?
Oh, I was so scared. I was so scared. And the funniest thing I can remember was I was chewing gum. And I could not figure out. I was so nervous. I couldn't hardly swallow my gum because I couldn't spit it out. And I remember, and I have a picture of it somewhere, and I remember just as soon as that green flag dropped, there's 3 rows of cars, and it's me, Marty, and Andy all in the line because I wasn't going fast enough for them.
Oh no.
But that was, but it was fun.
Yeah.
And once I got started, once I got past that initial thing, it was fun.
Yeah.
And I would race there. We'd try and do Eldora. We had a lot of fun. I was never real great at it. We had fun.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing.
That's the main thing.
We had fun, and then I enjoyed vintage racing. We would race in Minnesota. We'd race with the boys from Kansas. We'd go to Oklahoma every year down to the Chili Bowl.
Oh wow.
And we did that in January, and we'd take the midget down there.
Right.
And we would take both midgets and we would put them on. We had a Burbank trailer, a double-decker trailer, put one on top of the other one and haul them down that way.
Wow.
And that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of fun. We'd do that. And I remember I would demolition derby all the time, and my dad would get so mad because I would spend so much money and so much time on working on my demo car. Well, my dad won demolition derby back in the 60s.
Right, right.
But he never spent no time.
Sure.
The cars were a lot stronger back then. They didn't have to, and I was no different than him. It's just different time.
Yeah.
And then since then I've done a little bit of everything, and whether I'm doing it or I wanted to do it, my family would support me. My dad would support me. I tough trucked. I do demolition derby. I do rollover contests.
Oh wow.
They would be at every event.
Sure.
They would come to it. They would help me. They'd do everything, and I always had a sponsor.
Awesome.
They would always sponsor. They did. I always had my Gustafson agency or Travel Now. My mom's travel agency would always sponsor me.
Right.
And in return I would I had a lot of fun.
Gave them a return for their investment.
Yep. And my biggest thing is if I can't be good at it, I might as well give somebody a show.
This has nothing to do with vintage.
That's fine.
What he's talking about. Oh, sorry, there's dust on it. And his Psycho Racing was the name of.
Yeah, me and my buddies, we couldn't really call ourselves. We couldn't really call ourselves, just one name. So we decided our group would be called Psycho Racing.
There you go.
So we actually called it Psycho Racing on Tour because we went all over.
Oh wow.
And we did train races.
Sure.
Where you chain 3 cars together.
Yeah.
Oh, we had and Mom and Dad would come to that. I remember one year I went to the demolition derby. I think it was in Boone, and it was like 100 degrees outside. And my dad gets a generator out, sets it on my trailer, gets a fan out, puts that out, pulls the extension cord out, starts the generator, puts a fan in front of my mom. So my mom won't be so hot while she sits
happy
there.
Happy life.
While she sits there and watches us get the car ready.
Right.
But we would do this, and my dad would be one of the first ones there to watch. He would always help me. My sister would be right there to help. I couldn't ask for a better family.
And that's so awesome that that is the main thing is when family can get involved.
And I gotta say, the family that races together stays together.
Yeah.
And that means a lot.
Wow.
There's my dad.
And that's his hobby stuff.
That was my very first car. No.
Do we have one of the Heap of Death? Because that's not it.
I don't.
Where is that?
I don't think I do.
Heap of Death.
I don't know where it's at.
Well, that's probably why your vintage events were so amazing, is because it sounds like that the Gustafson family has a rich history with family, and not only with family, with racing, and wow.
We would, you know, and it was a family deal where Dad would, you know, he would start, just as soon as we got done with an event, he'd start all over again.
Right.
And he had a Rolodex, and he would keep everybody's name in there, you know, and then, we got, you know, Knoxville's coming up. We got this one, because ours was always in the end of the year. So we would go to all these other events, and if we didn't bring a car, we were there handing flyers out.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions I was going to be asking is, you know, how you guys got all these people to, because the social media scene wasn't really going on, back then.
No.
So,
and we would go around, hand out flyers, and he would, we'd go to just about any vintage race there was,
sure.
or anything that had vintage race we would go to. And we usually didn't have a lot of sponsors. We had Arnold Motors sometimes, place like that. But most of the time, we didn't really have any sponsors to help us. We just did it all ourselves.
Right.
And it was just a family thing. We'd hang up flyers to get local people to come, but they would charge a couple dollars for them to come in. Nothing.
Sure.
Nothing.
Do you remember from how far away you were pulling people to your events? Different areas, different states. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, yeah, we were getting them we've had them from Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Kansas, Missouri.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I just remember that whole fairgrounds. There was just old cars scattered all over the Hamilton County Fairgrounds.
You would get them from all over.
Right. And that's amazing, considering they didn't have the social media outreach, back then.
Yeah, and like I said, I think a lot of it had to do with his connection with the IMC Old Timers.
Sure.
And how they ran their show, and everything's kind of how he figured out how to do his show.
Right. He definitely knew how to do his show.
So he would kind of get that.
Very awesome. Sweet. You got anything else that you want to talk about or add, or I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you welcoming me and my little brother, my camera guy, into your home and sharing.
You're more than welcome. I appreciate this.
I just can't tell you enough what an inspiration that you guys were to me. Hopefully you always remember what an impression you left on people like me to want to do this. How amazing you were, and your sister, your dad, your family, the Gustafson family. Hopefully, I just can't express enough what impression you left on me to want to do this. So I thank you very much. And I hope that the Nostalgia Dirt Series makes the Gustafson family proud. And I'll always let people know where this came from and that kind of stuff. So
as soon as I seen that article, that very first article, I sent it to my mom and everything, and I says, I think I need to get the 104 car out.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I haven't raced since Dad's gone.
Sure.
I haven't raced anything like that.
Sure.
And it's just,
Well, you better get that thing out and come to our very first event it's on June 26th and 27th, and my vision is that it's just going to be a vintage racing blowout and talking about history, and I can't wait to meet new people and see the cars.
That's the neatest thing. That's the best thing is just stop and talk.
Yeah.
Just talk to everybody.
Yeah, and I miss that because since the vintage race car reunion at Hamilton County, we've had our club and I've met different people, but nothing like when you guys held your event. And I'd always just missed that. And for many years I thought, man, this is just something that I really would like to do, and my life has came around 180 degrees to where I've closed up the family business that I had, and I'm all in with the Nostalgia Dirt Series stuff. So I'm all in.
Cool.
And
I hope it goes well. I really do.
yes, sir. Me too. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and talking about your dad, Ron, and showing us the pictures, and hope to see you at our vintage events, and you'll be a rock star there. I'll make sure that you're a rock star there. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Doug Gustafson.
Is that really? Really? Number 43? And I go, yeah, that's a number 43. Really? Wow. That's all I ever said. And they're like, I can't believe you got a Richard Petty thing.
So, Doug, you need to tell me, get in front of your truck again, and you need to tell me a little bit of history about the Tally-Ho, and a little bit why this truck is special to you.
All right. Try to do it without crying.
That's okay.
I get kind of emotional.
That's all right.
Well, I bought this truck. I've had it probably 7 years. And built this truck. The way when my dad was sick, he was in the hospital off and on. I would call him, talk to him, bring my magazines with me and ask him, well, should I do this? Should I do that? And he would tell me, and I built it the way he would do it. The lowered springs in the front, straight axle, flip the back axle. It's got a small block in it, automatic transmission. Told him one day that I wanted to name the truck Ruben because that was his middle name and that's my grandpa's name. And
Sure.
He says, no, you don't do that. That's not what I want. He says, you need to name it Rube. Well, I didn't know what Rube meant. He says, everybody called your grandpa Rube. And I says, all right. So decided we're going to name the truck Rube. Well, right after my dad passed away, I took the glove box to where his car show, took the glove box out, had a guy paint Rube on the glove box. So we officially named the truck Rube. And then when they came out with the black license plates, I was so excited because the black license plates reminiscent of the license plates that were on the 52 that year.
Right.
So the license plates say Tally-Ho. Anytime I ever got off the phone with my father, he never said goodbye. He never said anything. He always said Tally-Ho.
How cool is that?
That's why it says Tally-Ho on the license plates. So this whole thing's a tribute to my grandpa and my dad.
Awesome. I'm sure that's an amazing tribute. Very, very beautiful vehicle.
It's getting there. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but we sure have fun with her.
So Doug gave us the honor of being able to kind of look at his shop and some of the cool things memorabilia that he has in here. What a beautiful, amazing shop. So cool. I love the stuff hanging on the wall too. I got more stuff than I have wall space, but that's my problem.
I've got more stuff to hang up yet.
Yeah, so do I. I just need some more walls.
Yeah.
My wife keeps saying, no more stuff. So I want to get a picture of this sign here. That's cool.
I gotta get up to the office when we go, and I want the big light up sign off the office. My dad light up sign and stuff. Race banners. Had all kinds of race banners with my uncle as well. You know? We go to races and steal banners. Me and another thing.
So if you like what you see today on the program for the Nostalgia Dirt Series, please hit subscribe. We're going to be having many amazing interviews about vintage racing and meeting different people. So if you like what you see, please follow along. Thank you.